Hey guys, Veteran Outdoorsman here, and we are going to talk a little bit about the importance of sharpness. And I'm going to walk through, I've done some sharpening videos about sharpening pocket knives, sharpening broadheads, etc. I never really was happy with them or felt I did a very good job um, as far as going through the steps and getting comprehensive with it. So I've got some grizzly broadheads that are straight out of the package, and we're going to go through the steps. These are single bevel broadheads. You can certainly use these steps for double bevel. That's fine. And as I'm getting things set up, I've got to put an insert on here, some things like that. As I'm getting things set up, I'm going to talk a little bit about why it's important to have a sharp broadhead. And we're going to get into the equipment. This may even be a two-parter. This is going to be pretty comprehensive. But if you're wondering what I'm doing, I have touched this. Your hand has oil on it, so I'm degreasing it. I'm putting a 100 grain broadhead adapter inside my see everything that came off of that? That's dirt and grime that's going to keep you from getting good adhesion. And we'll sharpen one or two broadheads, and I'm going to discuss the not only the technique but the materials needed to sharpen. You can certainly get jigs that you can buy from Lancaster or uh, Three Rivers Archery. They might even sell them like Bass Pro Cabela, something like that. You can certainly get jigs. That's fine. We're going to be sharpening by hand today. Why do you want a really sharp broadhead? Well, that's what kills the animal, right? The broadhead kills the animal. I'll put this where it's going to be clean. The broadhead kills the animal. Sharpness causes hemorrhaging. Hemorrhaging causes death. That's pretty simple. What you want is the animal to bleed to death in the quickest, most efficient manner. The sharper this is, the more tiny little veins and arteries and cells and things it's going to cut. This is straight out of the package, and I believe on here it says that they're hunting sharp. Caution, sharp contents. Let's see. Got some newspaper. Eh, that's not horrible. It's actually okay. But see how it hangs sometimes and it puckers? It's certainly, yeah, it's not sharp. Yeah, it's not sharp. So, we're going to change that. Get this adapter put in place. We'll go from there. Um, you know, The broadhead is what kills the animal, folks. That's the important part. The broadhead kills the animal. I think I'm almost empty. Hang on. We might have to just do this by hand, and I might have to get some more. No, it's in there. Oh, I thought that was the one I'd used already. This one's fresh, so I gotta open it up. Broadhead kills the animal. The more jagged a cut, the more likely it is to clot. The less hemorrhaging you're going to get. So the sharper the cut, the more it's going to bleed. If you've ever cut yourself with something very sharp, say a fillet knife, a razor blade, and I'm not talking the one that your wife shaved her legs with. I'm talking a fresh out of the package razor blade, and I'm not talking one of those little reusable or refillable three blade Mach 3 whatever Schick Quattro, that kind of thing, like a safety razor, that type of a blade. You've ever accidentally cut yourself with one of those? Many times you don't even know you've been cut. And you look and you got blood dripping down your chin. That's what I'm talking about. That's the kind of sharp you want. And that's what we're going to try to achieve here today. Always do this. Don't do this on the carpet. Your wife will get mad. Always do this over a surface where if you're going to glue in inserts, on a surface where it doesn't matter if you get it a little bit dirty. Put that in there good. Now what I do, this is tapered and this is tapered. So to drive them into center, just a few taps on a hard surface. Be careful, don't cut yourself. Then, and if I happen to cut myself while we're doing this, that just shows you something you got to be careful about. It won't be the first time, it won't be the last. I cut myself quite often, actually. Usually doing stupid things. But this isn't stupid. So, you need a broadhead. Preferably a single bevel. Some sort of stropping material. Cardboard, a piece of craft wood, piece of belt leather works really well. Now this isn't from a belt, it's just belt leather that I bought at a craft store to cut the length. Or, if I've got it here, and I should have, a commercial strop. You can buy them at Lancaster, a commercial strop. You will need sharpening stones that go from coarse to fine. That can be regular old whetstones like this, 3-sided, coarse, medium, fine. Could be a 4-sided diamond stone. Goes from coarse, medium, fine. That's fine. You can have just a fine coarse. You can use sandpaper in various grits. That's fine. Many of you will use these stones without a cutting oil. Um, I think you should have some sort of a honing oil. I do not spend the extra money on the specific honing oil by Lansky or something like that. If you do, that's fine. If you're using the actual oil, not the oilless, which is a water base, you can use water on these stones. That's fine. Um, but if you're using the actual oil, those oils are just a refined mineral oil. Um, three and oil, one oil works just fine. Baby oil works just fine. And baby oil, you don't have the machine grimy type smell, especially if you're doing this on the kitchen table, something like that. Your wife will appreciate that much better than she will gun oil or something, 3-in-1 oil. I've used WD-40 in a pinch. Not something I really like because it's not as viscous as I like. And there's the one that was already open. Now I find it. You will need a Sharpie. If you have a Tonto tip, you will need a bastard file, a fairly fine bastard file. And somebody say, why are you so mean to that thing? Why do you call it a bastard? Well, I don't know which maker named it. No, that's because of the way the teeth are made. If you don't know that, I'm not saying a dirty word. It's the way the teeth are straight across. That's a bastard file. This is for chainsaw rakers, but it's got a handle. It's the right size. We're going to use that for the Tonto tip when we're done sharpening it. I've already shown you this thing is not sharp. It's also fairly rough. So I'm going to start with the coarse, with the extra coarse. I don't really like the smell of baby oil, and I'm in the basement in my shop. So I'm going to use 3-in-1. Look up some videos on how to keep your stones clean and whatnot. Just oiling this up. You say, what's the Sharpie for? I'm glad you asked. The Sharpie is to color the bevel. See how it's nice and shiny? All the way to the edge, all the way back. The edge is the important part. If you don't get all the way back on the bevel, it's not that big a deal, but it will help you keep a consistent bevel. And something I like to have, but not everybody will agree with me on this, that's fine, is a sharpening stick. And that is a quick set glue that I put in there, so it's already set. You get the bevel all colored in. And what you're going to do, the first time you do this, I've said this in my other videos, Ranch Fairy said it in his videos, use a cheap knife, practice. Because if you haven't practiced and know how to find the bevel, you're going to ruin your edges. And broadheads aren't cheap. If you're buying like iron wills or something like that, you could be spending $100 for 3. For grizzly stick stuff, you can spend them $100 a piece. So for the Ashby heads, so you're going to feel the bevel, and it's not too hard to feel. And then you're just going to run across like this. I'm going to do a few strokes, hopefully raise a burr. And with this nice wide bevel, you can feel it pretty easy. And it's just a feel thing. Taking a few strokes, How am I doing? Well, you see, this was ground with a wheel, and it's shiny on the edge and on the inside. It's not flat. We're going to fix that. We're getting there. And the whole point of the Sharpie is you can see if you're a little high, a little low. Get your angle right, and then get all the material, get all the black off. The most important part is to get the edge. If it's still a little hollow, that's not that big a deal, but I like it to be nice and flat and shiny. This is rough, and it'll grab onto things, stuff like that. You don't want that. See, it's getting close. It's getting close. A few more strokes, and we're going to be ready for the next step. Almost there. Like I said, you're just going to put it on there, feel the bevel, and you can change the pressure. I don't ever press very hard, but my initial strokes on a dull head, I'll give pretty moderate pressure, because I want to take off the most material. Just about there. A little bit on the end here. And make sure you're sharpening the whole blade with every stroke. So let's clean that off. That's getting there. Now let's see if we've got a burr. What you're looking for, get the rest of that oil off. The oil makes it hard, and a lot of guys won't use the oil. That's fine if you don't want to with the diamond stone. That's fine. But what we've got here is, I haven't raised a burr yet. So we're just going to keep going. And if once all the Sharpie's off, you want to reapply it because you're not comfortable getting the edge, that's fine. Do that. I'm just going to keep going. Like I said, I can feel it pretty good. And with a single bevel, you don't have to count your strokes, because you're just going to touch it up a little bit on the back side. It's not that big a deal. With a double bevel, you're going to want to count your strokes, like with a pocket knife, something like that. And I can see that there's a little bit of a burr. If you really want to raise it up, you can go backwards. I just find that I don't have as consistent pressure backwards as I do forwards. At least not sharpening by hand. With a jig, different story. That's getting there. That's getting there. We're going to do it a few more times. And then just as flat as you can get it. If you're touching the ferrule a little bit, not that big a deal. Just a couple strokes on the back, just to kiss the burr off. Let's see. Now that's not bad, but that's rough. That was with a really rough stone. And we're going to go through this a lot faster here after this. This is taking a while. We're just getting the idea. Let me dry the oil off of here. See how it's nice and shiny? That's really, looks like there's a little bit of Sharpie left on there, but it's really not. It's like a dark spot on the metal. But it's not Sharpie. I got oil on my finger and that should wipe it right off. It's not Sharpie, but as we go through the process, that'll probably go away. Let's see. See how it skips over the paper? It grabs, but it doesn't just take off and cut. See how it skips? Now that's probably sharper than most people's broadheads at home. Shave a little bit of hair, but it's not hunting sharp. So we're going to go to a finer grit, because when that cuts, you just hear how it sounds kind of rough. It's not horrible. We're gonna keep going, take it to the next level. Luckily that was on the tip, and we're gonna address that in a minute. If you ever drop the tips on concrete, clean them up, but I'm gonna show you how to do that in a little bit. So let's take it to the next level and clean this up a little bit. Again, the same thing. I'm not going to use the Sharpie. I can feel the edge, but at this point, especially if you're new to this, you're going to want to reapply the Sharpie, and you're going to sharpen again, and then go to the next grit, the next grit, the next grit. I'll be back with you in just a minute. Okay, now I've gone all the way to the fine diamond stone. The technique's the same for each grit. Somebody will say, why are you cleaning off that oil? Well, the oil will soak into the paper and kind of give you a false reading. So let's see here. See how it grabs and before it takes off. And if you look, that's kind of rough. I'm going to go to a smooth whetstone. Now, you know, this is the point where if you're using sandpaper, you're going to go to 1,000 grit, 1,200 grit, something like that. Same technique. Mark it up with a Sharpie. Find your bevel. This is much, much finer. And this also has coarse and medium on it. I like to do my coarse work with the diamond. my finishing work with the whetstone. But it's all what you prefer. Well, let's try this. What I haven't done yet is the bevel there. That's going to make a big difference. That's going to make a big difference. Deburr that. Be very careful not to cut yourself. Now, let's see what it does with the newspaper. But see, that's not bad. It sounds a little rough, but it takes off. It grabs a little bit and takes off. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a few more strokes on the fine stone. And then just 2 or 3 backward strokes. To clean the burr off. Let's clean this up again. See where we're at. Be very, very careful when doing this, because you can easily cut through that paper and cut yourself. And nobody wants to cut themselves and bleed. So we got a small piece of newspaper here. Still a little rough. I mean, that one skipped right off. See? It just doesn't cut quite to where you want it. You can get it to hunting sharp with just a stone. But that's not what I'm going to do. Well, we might get there. But what we're going to do is take it to the next level with the strops. And I'm going to show you some different methods of stropping. Let's see. Some clean paper. Hear how it's still just a little rough? That's not bad. Let's take it to the next level. Now, you've got lots of options with stropping, like I said. Oh, you're going to need some stropping compound too. This is white gold. I bought it from some online archery shop. I don't remember if it was Lancaster or Three Rivers. This is good stuff, but any polishing compound's fine. Something I found works really, really well is Dremel polishing paste. It's like a clay, like a brown clay. It even smells like the modeling clay you used as a kid. You just rub it on. You just take your finger and smear it on the leather. This is a stick. You rub it on the leather like that. I need to clean this, but with leather, you've got a rough side and a smooth side. I'm going to start with the rough side, go to the smooth side. With this commercial strop, it's smooth, but for a rough side, you can use wood. You can put the polishing compound on a piece of cardboard and strop with it. You can do it on a piece of wood like this. And just for, it needs to be smooth, sand it down, whatever. It needs to be a smooth piece of wood. This is just a piece of craft board. Let me put some compound on it. See how it sticks to it. And I'm just smearing it on like it was a crayon. We all know how to use crayons. I won't insult your intelligence by showing you that. But see, I've got it on here. And for that, it's the same thing. The angle's not as important, but just light pressure, go backwards. Always backwards on a strop. You go forward, you're going to cut chunks out of it, like I did down there in that corner. You don't want to do that. And then, you see how it's taking metal away? It's polishing that. Then, just a few light strokes backwards. Always backwards, but light strokes on the back side, sorry. And I took more than was necessary, for sure. Let's see, this is with the wood strop. It grabbed a little bit. I'm close to my fingers. Let me tear off another piece. That's not bad. That's pretty sharp. Makes a shh. But you can get it better. Now, that skipped a little bit. I'm not the best at this technique, to be honest with you. I'm not bad at sharpening. I'm not good at testing with paper. It's not bad. And you look at it, you don't see little bits of paper on the edge, things like that. That's stuff you need to look for. Now, I like the leather. So I've already applied compound on here. I bought this at a craft store, pretty cheap. It's just belt leather. An old belt will work, but they've usually got some sort of a polish on one side. Just this raw belt leather like this. I'm going to start on the rough side, go to the smooth side, then a few strokes on the really smooth strop. But, at this point, say you get a piece of wood and you're stropping with this thin wood, then go to a piece of cereal box cardboard or something like that. Some really thick, like construction paper would work well. Put your compound on that, use that. 2000 grit sandpaper is fine. That'll get you to a pretty good edge. And the same thing, I'm just going to lay it flat and go backwards, 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 and then like 2 strokes that way. Not a lot of pressure, because the leather can curl around the edge and dull your edge. Some people have found that out the hard way. And you can go as fast or slow as you want. Now I'm going to go to the smooth strop. I need to put a little bit more white gold on it. I need to clean this strop. That's what I need to do. Polishing compound on there. A stick of this will last you a long time. I mean, unless you're a professional barber or something, it's going to last you years. If you hunt pigs and kill 40 or 50 a year, and you hunt all year round, you may go through a stick in a year, but it's a pretty good investment. It's pretty cheap. I think I paid $10-15 for that stick. You can get it off of Amazon or something, there's different pastes, different polishing compounds that you can use. Then backwards on the back side a couple times. Then I take my cloth and clean it somewhat, because sometimes a little bit of polishing compound sticks to it and makes it artificially dull. Well, it doesn't make it artificially dull. It's stuck to it, so now it's dull, just like fat sticks and whatnot. This stuff it's kind of waxy and kind of melts as you go, and it'll stick to a lot of things. So let's see. That sounded a little rough. That grabbed. Like I said, I'm not the best at holding the paper, and what you're looking for is nice smooth cuts in the paper. And somebody's going to say, that guy needs practice. Well, it's the first time I've done it this year. I do need practice. I do sharpen periodically, but it's not the first time I've done it this year. First time I've done it in a while. See, it just... I think I'm pushing too hard. See? And there's a rough spot or two as it kind of grabs. And you can just feel it grab a little bit. So let's do a little more stropping. Back to the strap, to the leather. Make sure you're on a flat surface when you're doing this. Again, the angle's not as important. As just the fact that you're getting the burr off that edge. There you go. There you go. That's what you're looking for. So, let me get set up. I'm going to show you how to do the tonneau point. And then we're going to do a comparison. We've got one dull edge, one sharp edge. And then we'll be done. Okay, this is where you need the file and a Sharpie. A small coarse stone will work just fine. You don't need anything really fine for this. This has a Tonto tip. Okay? It's very popular with knives these days. It's been popular with broadheads for a long time. So this doesn't have much of one. I'm just going to take that, color it black. I'm going to do both sides, but I'll have to redo it when I sharpen the other side. And then I'm just going to kind of by feel. Take that black off. Not putting a lot of pressure on that. And then to get the burr, just a little bit on the backside, real light. A little bit on the backside, real light. And then all you want to do is check and see if it'll grab your nail. And this won't yet. So let's keep going. Now you want to be careful. You don't want to hog on it really hard because you'll move your point off center. And before you know it, you'll try to spin your broadheads and won't spin true. And you just want it to dig in. Dig into your fingernail. Move just a little bit more. Remember, I dropped this on the concrete just a few minutes ago. And then real light on the back. Real light on the back. And that's all you really want. Another test. You take the point and with some moderate pressure, cut through paper like that. And there you have it. So I need to work on my single bevel part. Sorry, on my tonneau tip part, I'm not the best at that. So I'm still working on that, but that's how you do it. And just practice. Be very, very careful. This is where you can ruin your broadhead. So, see how nice and polished that is? Versus that side's kind of rough. Hopefully you can see that. But I mean, you can feel it with your fingernail. That's pretty smooth there. So, let's do our control test. We got a sharp side. We got a dull side. Let's do our control test. And as you're moving the broadhead around, make sure you don't cut yourself. Don't bleed. Don't bleed. This is the dull side. Yeah, I mean, if you force it, it'll cut, but this is the sharp side. That's the sharp side. Barking spiders. Another piece of newspaper. Newspaper works really good. Something a lot of people test on. And just a shh. I'll probably still hone that just a little bit. See, it caught a little bit there. That's what you want. That. Just like that. I've got a rough spot or two I need to touch up. But what you don't want that wasn't bad, actually. What you don't want, though, is grab and tear. Grab and tear. What you want is push down on it. Push down on it. And it just bite right in. Again, that's a lot sharper than it was. I'm going to keep honing on these things. These things are going to be scary razor sharp. You know, a lot of guys do the hair test, the shaved hair off your body test. If you're going to do that, don't use any pressure. And my skin on my hand is just a little too loose. But honestly, yeah, you can shave some hairs off for sure. You shave the hairs right off, make that bald spot there. But you run the risk of cutting yourself, especially when you don't want to use hardly any pressure at all if you're doing that. You can see I've got a lot of missing hair on my body, usually from my pocket knives and things, touching them up at work on my coffee cup, and I'm going to show you that. We'll be done. Because you're going to be out hunting, and you're going to get back to camp. You're out in the middle of nowhere. You forgot your sharpening stone or your strop or whatever. You're going to be sitting there telling lies. And you're going to pull your broadhead out of your quiver and realize it's just not as sharp as it was when you stuck it in there. There's lots of things you can use to touch up your blade. Hey, I suggest carry a jewel stick, a file like this, a piece of leather, a chunk of polishing compound, throw them in your bag with you. Also throw up some sort of field stone. So if you drop it on a rock or something, you can get the nicks out. I suggest you do that. But if for some reason you find yourself without those things, the window on your vehicle, roll that down. You get that smooth, that kind of rough glass across the top. You can use that like a crock stick, or the bottom of a coffee cup, or a plate. It's got to be ceramic. Same thing, line up your edge and just real light, and bring your edge back. And get it nice and sharp. Um, and that's a trick to. That is a trick. People will say, "Well, this is going to dull your blade." Well, I had already leather stropped it. Then I run it across that. Doesn't seem to hurt anything, does it? Is it quite as sharp as it was? Probably not. So I'm going to go back over to strop. I keep a piece of this strop-in leather with fresh compound on it in my possibles bag. That's me. That's what I suggest. Get you a piece of leather, some polishing compound, a sharpening stone or two, a few things. Throw them in your bag. When you get to camp, take them out. Set them at camp. That's fine. No one says you have to carry them with you. But you've got them. Leave them in your truck, whatever. Throw them in your glove box. Right back to edge. And then, while you're sitting around, I'm going to touch up my pocket knife while I'm at it. Works for that too. While you're sitting around, talking to your buddies, whatever, touch up your blades. Now, on a double bevel, you are going to want to count the strokes. But a lot of guys, so they don't have to do that, they'll go 1, 1, 1, 1. That's fine. 1, 1, 1, 1. Let's see how that works. And that wasn't super sharp. I touched it up on a coffee cup today, but it needed a touch up. Whatever you do, don't go in the woods with broadheads that do this. Get them sharp. That technique will work for knives. Go to Files and coarser sandpaper. It'll work for hatchets, axes, shears. They're single bevel. Remember that. It'll work for those types of things. Sharpening is not something that people really learn anymore. Especially, when I started hunting and whatnot, my dad showed me how to sharpen knives. My dad, with a medium Smith's sharpener, a fine Arkansas whetstone, and a set of crock sticks, can make a blade scary. I can sharpen a blade pretty good, but that man can. It just never. I've seen him take cotton pillow ticking patches that he used to clean his rifles and stuff, and like I did with the paper, just take it and cut those in half. I mean, scary sharp. Another trick that I use here at the house, I don't have it set up right here, so I can't show you. Maybe I'll show you in another video. I've got a 3 or 4 inch little, maybe 2, I don't know, a little bench grinder about this big. I mean, the motor on it may be the size of this soda can. and I took the grinding blade off. It's got a buffing wheel. I run it buffing compound on it, and I run these backwards on it. Then I touch up the backside a little bit, and that will really give it that next step, even more so than the hand stropping. And that's what I'll do to all of my broadheads before I stick them in the quiver to go hunting. After I've gone through all these steps, I'll do that. And maybe you get a paper wheel or something like that. Do you have to spend the 30-40 bucks on that little grinder? No, you don't. And I don't. You have to be very careful with it. It can grab. You've got sharp things. And the problem is when you're dealing with a wheel like that, you really don't want to use gloves. Yes, gloves are safe. I get that. But this is tempered. And you want it to be where if it's starting to get hot enough, it's uncomfortable, you'll pull your hand away so you don't lose temper on your blade. Watch this. If you're ever using this on a buffing wheel or something and it starts to change color, you've changed the temper on your blade. It's now a practice head. That's fine. Dip it in orange paint, it's your practice head. That's fine. But watch for that. You're better off to stick to the by hand things. But I do use that wheel. And it's very, to me, it takes it to the next edge, to the next level, even over this. I mean, you can get to almost a mirror polish. But over time, with fine stones and things, you'll get, these will, over time, become more and more polished, sharper, etc. And, the whole thing is we want to cut meat, hide, things like that. They're tough. We want to, I'm just playing around. Get them as sharp as possible. Use thick blades. These are, I'm not sure how thick they are, but they're pretty thick. Look at the backside there. Pretty thick. I've got to get the other side of this now. But, bow hunting's not cheap. I mean, it can be cheaper than other sports and hobbies you get into, no doubt. But it's not cheap. You need to invest into a little bit of equipment. If you're not comfortable sharpening, you're not good at it, whatever, that's fine. Buy Magnus heads, they're pretty sharp out of the package. At least learn how to strop so you can touch things up, because your heads are going to get dull rattling around in your quiver, bouncing around. You pull them out, you drop them on the ground, whatever. They're going to get dull there. At least learn how to strop if you don't learn how to full sharpen. And you can do it that way, but it's being pushed more and more. The hunting public, the ranch fairy, lots of guys on the internet. You've got to have scary sharp broadheads, and I'm talking now with that side. I'm going to be very careful to loosen that and take that off that arrow. Before, you saw I licked it. It wasn't sharp. Tapped it on my hand. Now I tested it first. Don't think I just pulled it out of the package. That was stupid. No. But I can promise you right now, I'm not licking that edge. That one? That's fine. A little bit of this. Maybe cure constipation. Who knows? But I've gone over some simple things. Hey, you can get sandpaper at Walmart or the local hardware store. You can buy this set of stones and those whetstones I've got at Harbor Freight. You can make a strop. Get you a scrap piece of wood, get it planed off what nice and level. Put a handle on it if you want to. Glue a piece of leather to it. You can do that. You can use the craft board. You can buy it at Michael's or Hobby Lobby, something like that. Um, get you some polishing compound. This I bought it at the chainsaw shop. You get Oregon or steel or whatever brand, just a fine file. I've got maybe $40 worth of sharpening supplies that are going to last me the, a long, long time. I mean, years and years. Can you get better stones? Sure. Um, Smith makes good stones. Lansky makes good stones. There's lots of companies out there. They make diamond plates that are nice and big, easier to do, the broadheads and stuff. That's fine. And I got this at Harbor Freight for like $10. I got the whetstone set at Harbor Freight again for like $10-15. Um, this wasn't too awful expensive, but it's an investment. It's something that you're going to be able to use for a long time. You can use it on kitchen knives. You can use it on your hunting knives. Maybe you got an old hunting knife and you've gone to your Havalons and you've just decided I'm not sharpening it, but you've got a really nice carbon steel hunting knife sitting in the sheath in your sock drawer. Take it out, sharpen it up. Um, you're gonna once you learn to sharpen, you may think you already know, but maybe you've never gotten it to where you really need to be. It's sharp enough to cut a rope. Okay, it's good enough. Not with broadheads. You want these things to where you're scared to touch them. There was a day when somebody pulled a broadhead out of their quiver. If they got close to you, you backed up. Anymore, it's really not the case. A lot of it's because of mechanicals. I get that, but we've gotten used to just hunting with dull broadheads, folks. If I'd have took this thing out of the package, glued it onto my insert, and gone hunting with it, would it kill the deer? Probably. Would I have gotten much blood? Probably not. Would I have done the damage that I'm going to do now? No way. So, this is Veteran Outdoorsman. I know this is a long video, but I hope you got something out of it. Like, subscribe, put down in the comments below any tips or tricks that you've picked up over the years. Like the window or the coffee cup. Get you a few sharpening supplies. Set you up a table in the basement or the garage or the backyard. Go at it. I've mentioned my other videos. Range Fairy mentioned in some of his videos. Start with a cheap knife. I mean a cheap knife. $5 and less. Buy a cheap Chinese knife somewhere. They're not good steel, blah, blah, blah. Practice, practice, practice. You finally ruined the blade on that, go get another one. Buy 3 or 4 of them. Practice until you can consistently just get that thing hair popping sharp. I mean, just scalpel shaving sharp. Then go to your broadheads. Trust me, you don't want to ruin. You're using iron will, you're using grizzly sticks, something like that. They are expensive. It's not unusual to spend $100 for 3 broadheads, folks. I mean, these I don't think I spent anywhere near that, but I've got to buy the steel inserts to go into them. I've got to put them together, but I probably got, I don't know. I mean, they're probably more expensive than a Rage by the time I got done. Grizzly Kodiaks. But they're carbon steel. You can reuse them over and over. Sorry, one more thing before I leave. The more polished that is, the less likely it is to rust because there's less surface area. That's why you sandblast things before you glue them together. When you're talking about steel, when you're epoxying steel together and stuff, you sandblast it first. It increases the surface area. Highly polished epoxy doesn't stick because there's not as much surface area. There's no pores for it to grab onto. The more polished it is, the less it's going to rust. But some tricks to keep it from rusting. Chapstick melts under body temperature, so when it hits the animal, it moves out of the way. A little bit of Vaseline, light coat of vegetable oil, Crisco, something like that. Just real light coat. I don't suggest the mineral oils and things because they have a scent. Sharpie on there. If you're using stainless, you shouldn't have to worry about it. These are high carbon steel, 1075 steel. They rust. Most files are made out of 1075, 1080. And if you look at the end of that file, this has just been sitting in the house. It's rusting. They'll draw moisture. You're going to start hunting in September. It's going to be hot and humid. Pretty well anywhere you're at, be hot and humid. Then you're going to be hot all day, humid. You're going to take these things. You're going to put them in your air-conditioned truck. Then you're going to drive around your air-conditioned truck. They're going to cool. They're condensing whatever. Then you're going to take these nice, cool 65-degree broadheads out in 85, 90-degree weather. What happens when you're wearing glasses? You're cold, you get outside, they fog up. Same thing with that. That moisture sits on there, they rust. Watch for that. Do something to protect it. Look at them every day. Constantly stropping them. You know, the end of every trip, just strop them a couple times. Keep the rust off. They'll pay for themselves. That advice will pay for itself. Don't leave them in the bed of the truck. The more polished they are, the less likely they are to rust. But just some, a little bit of Vaseline, a little bit of Crisco, coconut oil, vegetable oil works well, things like that. Something over the edge just to keep it from rusting. Don't use wax that can coat over the edge and it doesn't dull the steel, but it can coat over the edge and allow it to be dull when it hits something. But like I said, a little bit of chapstick, Vaseline, shortening, something like that. The end of the trip, take some vegetable, the end of the day, take some vegetable oil on a soft cotton rag and wipe it down. And you should be good to go. But once you've got them sharpened, they're ready to rust. They're nice and shiny, bright metal. They're ready to rust. So be careful. Veteran Outdoorsman, I love y'all. Again, like I already said, like, subscribe, put some tips and tricks down below, and I hope to see you again later. Have fun in the woods. Get on Veteran Outdoorsman Facebook page and show me some pictures of your bow kills this year. You can join the group. You can share your own videos, things like that. I'm all about that. That's fine. All I ask is no profanity, no political posts. God bless you, and we'll see you next time, folks.